People have to be involved in that decision-making process so that their interests are looked after.
Now for some questions that the people want to know. You have disenfranchised young voters that feel like their vote doesn't mean anything. Why should I vote? I'm not going to vote. They don't care about me. They don't talk my language. They don't listen to me. Can you tell them why it's important for them to vote this year?
Well, this is going to be a critical year.
Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The content that follows is intended solely for educational and entertainment purposes. What if the world's most powerful people weren't protected by justice but by each other for decades? He was the untouchable king of hip-hop billionaire deals, red carpet headlines, friendships with presidents. But behind the champagne and spotlights, there was a system built not just on fame but on fear. When federal agents stepped into a New York courtroom, nobody expected the name they were about to drop. It wasn't just Diddy under investigation, it was something darker, bigger, deeper. A former FBI agent took the stand, and what he revealed didn't just shock the courtroom. It exposed a shadow, empire that allegedly reached all the way to the White House. And it all began with one sentence that froze the room cold. We weren't just blocked by lawyers, we were blocked by Washington. No one expected it to go this far. The courtroom was packed, journalists shoulder to shoulder, attorneys reviewing notes they thought they'd never need again. Then came the warning, viewer discretion advised. This wasn't going to be a typical celebrity trial, not even close. When former FBI agent Mark Halperin took the stand dressed in a plain navy suit with a badge barely visible beneath his lapel, the room fell silent. What he delivered wasn't testimony, it was a confession from inside the system. Halperin didn't speak like a man speculating. He spoke like a man who had lived inside the rot. He told the court that Sean Diddy Combs hadn't just evaded justice, he was protected by it. For over 2 decades, the FBI had quietly tracked Diddy's financial web international connections and disturbing patterns linking him to trafficking, blackmail, and shell corporations. And every time they got close, someone slammed the door shut. We weren't dealing with celebrity privilege, Halperin said. We were dealing with federal interference. The entire room stiffened. One juror covered their mouth. The judge leaned forward, suddenly more alert. It was the first time the public heard what insiders had whispered for years. Diddy's protection wasn't about fame. It was about utility. He wasn't just an artist, he was an asset. A man too connected to fall, too useful to expose. But what happened next shattered any illusion of this being a standard trial. A man with no name was called to the stand. No introduction, no press coverage, no history on file. Just a silent nod from the judge, and just like that, the real trial began. He was known only as Special Agent Redacted No. Full name, no history, no leaks. Just a man in a dark suit carrying a black folder and a reputation built deep within the FBI's most classified units. This wasn't some media stunt. This was the government pulling back the curtain, just slightly. He'd worked for decades inside the Bureau's organized crime and political corruption, divisions the kind of places where headlines never reach and careers vanish overnight. Now, for the first time, he was testifying under oath about one man, Sean Diddy Combs. I've been tracking Mr. Combs and his enterprise for over 20 years, he said, voice calm but sharp. What's new is that we're finally being allowed to talk about it. He opened the folder. The pages inside weren't rumor. They were records, transactions that didn't make sense, parties linked to known trafficking, Roots shell companies in Luxembourg, private jets crossing borders with zero oversight. And every time they moved in to investigate, someone from above pulled the plug. The turning point came in 2001 when a Bad Boy Europe affiliate was caught in a global sting on money laundering. The evidence direct links to Diddy's financial team. But when agents moved to secure warrants, the request was denied. That's when the agent knew this wasn't just about celebrity. This was federal-level interference. Files disappeared. Witnesses were relocated. Agents reassigned, he said. This wasn't a coincidence, it was coordinated. From 1999 to 2013, the Bureau logged repeated attempts to prosecute Diddy everything from wire fraud to trafficking, but each time the investigations mysteriously froze, witnesses vanished, dead ends piled up, doors slammed shut with no explanation. And then came the unthinkable. The agent alleged that Diddy had been granted unofficial informant protection, the kind not even registered in government systems. Only 3 people in the country had the authority to authorize something like that, he said quietly. The room froze. Everyone knew who those 3 were. But this wasn't just about what Diddy did. It was about who let him do it, and the next photo in that folder would name names no one was prepared to hear. When Special Agent Redacted flipped to the next page in his folder, you could feel the air change. He held up a photograph, grainy, old, but unmistakable. 2005. A younger Diddy smiling next to then-Senator Barack Obama at a Chicago fundraiser. At first glance, it seemed harmless, just another celebrity photo op. But then came the second photo. This one was different. 2007, a private off-the-books event in Washington, D.C., hosted by a powerful lobbying group tied directly to the Democratic National Committee. Diddy wasn't listed by name on the guest list, but there he was, caught mid-conversation laughing, surrounded by some of the most influential political players in the country. These weren't fan photos, the agent said. They were evidence of closed-door sessions, backroom meetings, not for publicity. These were power moves. According to the agent, Diddy had positioned himself as more than an entertainer. He was allegedly a cultural liaison, a fixer between the entertainment world and political circles, and in return for leaking insider information and helping mobilize youth voters, he got something few ever receive: protection. Wiretap subpoenas and even surveillance requests, all denied. In 2009, just months after Obama took office, the FBI submitted a request to tap Combs's communications with known drug traffickers allegedly laundering money through bad boy-affiliated production companies. That request pulled denied without explanation, but the agent had the receipts. He flipped to the last page, a call log from a White House-connected legal office. The name was redacted, but the timestamp matched the exact minute. The request was revoked. The courtroom held its breath. "We're not alleging President Obama personally intervened," the agent said, "but someone within his administration made the call, and that call shut everything down." The implication was clear. This wasn't luck. This wasn't legal genius. This was systemic, and it didn't stop there. A third photo was held up 2014, Martha's Vineyard, a private estate hidden from public view. No media, no staff, just Diddy, former President Barack, Obama, and Reverend Al Sharpton, casual smiling. No suits, no press credentials. It wasn't just another dinner. According to the agent, it was a charity event that also included former CIA assets, arms dealers, and high-level lobbyists. Some of the names were connected to sealed DOJ cases and overseas trafficking rings. And Diddy, he wasn't on the guest list. He wasn't there as a celebrity, the agent said flatly. He was there as a conduit, someone delivering street-level intel to the political elite, and in return, his sins were forgiven. A juror dropped their pen. A woman in the gallery gasped. The courtroom wasn't just looking at a celebrity with influence. They were staring at the cracks in the system itself. By now, the courtroom wasn't breathing. Special Agent Redacted reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small remote. One click, and the lights dimmed. A projector flickered on, showing a single still frame. A dark room lined with monitors. Over 30. Screens glowing at once, each displaying bedrooms, pools, private studios. Every screen was from a different location, and every camera was hidden. "This," the agent said, "is a surveillance hub inside one of Mr. Combs's Los Angeles properties." The image had been leaked by a whistleblower from a no-defunct private security firm hired by Diddy. The footage was time-stamped, authentic, and verified. The people on those screens had no idea they were being recorded. Some were celebrities, others, high-level executives, a few government officials. Many appeared intoxicated. Some, the agent said bluntly, were clearly coerced. It wasn't just voyeurism, it was leverage. In 2016, the FBI finally obtained a warrant to seize 3 hard drives believed to contain this footage. But by the time agents arrived, it was too late. A fire had broken out in the server room. Arson, the agent confirmed. The fire started 20 minutes after our office received federal clearance. Someone inside the system warned them. But there was one exception. A single hard drive retrieved from a safe deposit box in Puerto Rico had survived. On it, agents found hours of footage conversations, drug use, compromising behavior. According to Redacted, Diddy wasn't just hosting the events, he was orchestrating them. And most damning of all, he was seen referencing guests by first name, not as friends, but as assets. Was Barack Obama in those videos? The prosecutor asked no. The agent replied, but several of his close allies, donors, and political operatives were, and Mr. Combs made it clear he knew what they'd done. The court fell silent. The footage had names, locations, dates, conversations transcribed from hidden microphones planted in nightclubs, penthouses, and private jets. These weren't trophies, Redacted said. They were insurance policies. If someone tried to cut him off, ruin him, take him down, he had the means to ruin them first. This wasn't paranoia. This was strategy, and it worked. Years of silence, canceled investigations, closed doors, and at the center of it all, Diddy smiling for cameras while operating an invisible empire behind the curtain. The judge called for a recess. The spectators filed out in stunned silence. But one thing had become terrifyingly clear. This wasn't about parties anymore. It was about power. And the man behind the music wasn't just playing the industry. He was playing the entire system. The courtroom was already shaken, but what came next pushed it into full disbelief. Special Agent Redacted returned to the stand carrying a sealed envelope marked confidential. He handed it to the judge, who opened it slowly, scanning the top of the document with narrowing eyes. This, the agent said, is a declassified memo from the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. It was authorized for disclosure specifically for this trial. The courtroom stirred. Even seasoned reporters looked stunned. The memo's subject line was simple: entertainment assets, high-risk targets. It was dated 2012, authored by a senior analyst within the CIA's Domestic Operations Division, and at the center of the report, Sean Diddy Combs. According to the document, Diddy had been flagged years earlier as a high-value cultural influencer, someone with deep access to high-profile individuals across music media, politics, and finance. The agency didn't officially recruit him, but they didn't need to. He was already delivering everything they wanted. His events offered behavioral data, his network offered access, and his status gave us plausible deniability, the memo read. In exchange, the CIA allegedly allowed him to operate with little to no interference, even as red flags piled up. He had associations with arms traffickers offshore, bankers, and individuals tied to intelligence agencies in Eastern Europe and West Africa, but nothing stuck. No charges, no public investigations. Not because he was innocent, but because he was useful. The agent paused, letting that word settle in. We're not saying the CIA ordered him to commit crimes, he said. We're saying they overlooked them because his empire gave them influence where they couldn't go officially. It was access in exchange for silence. A shadow arrangement that blurred the lines between law enforcement and manipulation. But the most chilling revelation came next. The agent produced a notarized Legera list of wire transfers from shell companies linked to Diddy. These transactions had passed through entities tied to Britney Spears' conservatorship structure, entertainment firms like TriStar, and lobbying groups and D.C. political consultants, former intelligence contractors, an unnamed figure connected to a Caribbean trafficking case that mysteriously disappeared from the DOJ's docket in 2015. These aren't isolated incidents, the agent said. They're patterns, deliberate tactics used to buy silence, loyalty, and immunity. Diddy wasn't just an entertainer playing in powerful circles. He was part of the machinery. And for years, the system let him play both sides, celebrity and public operator in private. At that moment, the trial shifted again. It wasn't about crime anymore. It was about covert influence, and just how far a man can go when he becomes too valuable to stop. If anyone in the courtroom still believed this was just about financial crimes or political handshakes, that belief shattered the moment Agent Redacted opened the next folder. Inside were travel records, private jet logs, customs reports, foreign surveillance notes. But it wasn't where Diddy went that raised alarm. It was what he was allegedly doing when he got there. Between 2012 and 2015, Diddy made a series of international trips: Haiti, Colombia, Brazil, the Dominican Republic, and a chain of private Caribbean islands owned by anonymous shell companies. At first glance, it looked like recreation, lavish parties, yacht photos, vacation snapshots. But foreign intelligence partners painted a far darker picture: meetings with cartel-connected financiers, private functions involving arms brokers, and most disturbingly parties where underage girls were allegedly flown in from Brazil and Eastern Europe. One source cited in an internal agency memo claimed the girls were told they were traveling to audition for American Idol. They were promised opportunity. Agent Redacted said what they walked into was something else entirely. One of the most damning incidents came out of a 2012 Miami sting operation. A known Diddy associate was caught in possession of drugs, foreign cash, and photos of girls later identified as minors. The case had enough evidence to make national headlines. But then, everything vanished. The suspect released within 48 hours, the file sealed. The agents involved reassigned, and the reason, a single phone call, the agent said, traced back to a Capitol Hill extension. No name, no paperwork, just one call and the case disappeared. He then showed internal FBI emails with subject lines like, "Do not ask why this was buried. Be glad you're not in the room." By now, several jurors looked visibly shaken. One woman in the gallery quietly sobbed. This wasn't just scandal, it was systemic rot. Diddy's international. Dealings weren't random. They were part of a network, one that spanned music politics and black market logistics, and for years it went unchecked. He moved like a man without borders, without oversight, because someone somewhere had made sure he was untouchable. But even more disturbing than what Diddy allegedly did was how many powerful people stood by and let him. He built an empire off the backs of the vulnerable, the agent said, voice low, then used that empire to make himself indispensable to the people who should have stopped him. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. This wasn't just about what happened overseas. It was about how easily the system looked the other way in the dimly lit archives of the investigation. A chilling discovery emerged: the Ghost Room dossier. Hidden beneath layers of digital encryption and physical concealment, this dossier was a labyrinth of surveillance footage, cryptic handwritten notes, and damning blackmail material. Its contents revealed a secret world where power was not just amassed through talent or business acumen, but through fear, manipulation, and coercion. The surveillance footage painted an unsettling portrait: shadowy figures lurking in the background of glamorous events, whispered conversations caught on hidden microphones, and clandestine meetings where the stakes were life-altering. Every clip was a piece of a puzzle that, when assembled, exposed a systematic web of control and influence. The handwritten notes, penned in a hurried and sometimes cryptic script, detailed names, dates, and instructions. They referenced leverage points and insurance policies, hinting at a calculated operation that extended far beyond typical industry rivalries. At the center of this storm was a list of targeted individuals, artists with rising fame, influential politicians, and high-ranking studio executives. Each person represented a node in a vast network vulnerable to exposure and manipulation. The dossier chronicled how compromising information was gathered, stored, and weaponized to keep these figures in line or to force their cooperation. The materials ranged from personal indiscretions to financial improprieties, all meticulously documented for maximum impact. The overarching allegation that emerged from this trove was nothing short of explosive. Sean Diddy Combs had allegedly engineered his empire using a system of fear and leverage. Far from the self-made mogul image, this narrative suggested a man who wielded blackmail as deftly as contracts, who used intimidation to silence dissent, and who ensured loyalty through calculated threats. The dossier portrayed a calculated architect of influence, where power was secured not just through business savvy, but through the creation of an unassailable insurance policy, the ghost room itself. This covert operation supposedly served as a safeguard against betrayal or opposition, a place where secrets were stored to be unleashed. If loyalty wavered, it was an ultimate power move, a way to ensure dominance in the competitive and often cutthroat worlds of music, politics, and entertainment. The ghost room was not just a metaphor, but a tangible tool of control, a vault of leverage that kept even the most powerful figures in check, and just when you thought it couldn't go deeper. In a stunning revelation, a transcribed phone call from 2015 surfaced, threatening to upend the carefully constructed image of power and influence. In Washington, D.C., the recording captured Sean Diddy Combs in a rare moment of unguarded arrogance, boasting about his political clout, his ability to sway precincts, and issuing a chilling warning that sent shockwaves through political circles. The call begins with Diddy confidently outlining his reach into the political machinery, describing how he flips precincts and leverages his celebrity status to shape electoral outcomes. His voice calm, yet commanding, leaves little doubt about his intimate connections with key political players and operatives. He speaks of mobilizing voters, influencing local officials, and ensuring that certain agendas are advanced through the subtle and sometimes not-so-subtle power of celebrity. This was no casual conversation. The implications were grave: an admission of election interference through manipulation of precincts, using star power as a weapon to tilt the scales. Diddy's influence extended beyond entertainment and business, permeating the heart of the political process itself. His tone suggested a man who knew the levers of power intimately and wielded them without hesitation. The call grows darker as Diddy issues a warning, his voice hardening. He makes it clear that his network of influence is both far-reaching and retaliatory. "If I go down," he declares, "some of y'all are coming with me." The threat hangs heavy in the air, an unmistakable message to anyone considering crossing him. It implies that his fall would not be isolated, but catastrophic, dragging others into the fallout with him. The chilling nature of this statement underscores the precarious balance of power he maintained. It was a warning that the empire he built was guarded by more than just business deals and contracts. It was protected by a web of mutual assured destruction. Those who had allied with him, willingly or not, were bound by an unspoken pact of silence and loyalty, enforced by the fear of exposure. Political insiders who reviewed the transcript expressed alarm, recognizing the potential ramifications. If these claims of election interference were substantiated, it could trigger investigations into the very integrity of democratic processes. The blend of celebrity influence and political manipulation blurred lines that were meant to be distinct, raising questions about the role of powerful figures in shaping not just culture, but governance itself. As the call ended, the echo of Diddy's words lingered, a reminder of the fragile veneer separating power from chaos. The ultimate takeaway was clear. Beneath the glitz and glamour lay a ruthless operator, willing to bend rules, intimidate foes, and ensure his empire remained unchallenged. And in that warning, "If I go down, some of y'all are coming with me," was a stark declaration that the fallout would be far-reaching and devastating, threatening to shake the very foundations of power in D.C. and beyond. What began as an investigation into Sean Diddy Combs quickly evolved into something far more complex and alarming. This story isn't just about one man's rise or fall. It's about an intricate, shadowy network of influence and control that stretches deep into the fabric of entertainment, politics, and power. Diddy may be the most visible figure caught in this web, but the dossier, the surveillance, the blackmail materials, and the chilling phone call all point to a larger, far-reaching system designed to manipulate and protect itself at any cost. The revelations from the Ghost Room dossier exposed a strategy that went beyond traditional business tactics. It revealed a methodical approach to power, collecting secrets, controlling key players, and ensuring loyalty through fear and leverage. The targeted individuals, artists, politicians, executives, weren't just collateral. They were integral parts of a network bound by mutual interests and mutual threats. Diddy's empire, it appears, was less about solo genius and more about a tightly controlled ecosystem where every move was calculated and every alliance potentially fraught with hidden dangers. The 2015 phone call only deepened the mystery, suggesting that this network's reach extended even further into the very mechanisms of democracy itself. The implication that elections could be influenced through celebrity, sway, and precinct manipulation sends a chilling message about how modern power operates behind closed doors. And that warning, "If I go down, some of y'all are coming with me," serves as a grim reminder that this is not just a personal empire at stake, but a fragile balance maintained by unspoken threats and shared complicity. Yet even with this trove of evidence, many questions remain. Who else is involved in this web of influence? What other secrets lie buried in hidden files or encrypted servers? Are there deeper layers of corruption and manipulation waiting to be uncovered? And perhaps most importantly, what is the cost to the broader society when such networks operate in the shadows, outside the scrutiny of law and public accountability? This investigation has peeled back just one layer of a much larger puzzle, one that intertwines fame, money, politics, and power in ways that challenge our understanding of justice and transparency. The consequences of these revelations could be profound, potentially reshaping how we view the intersection of celebrity and governance, the boundaries of influence, and the vulnerabilities in our democratic institutions. As the dust settles and the public demands answers, one question looms larger than all the rest. When power protects itself, who protects the people? This is the ultimate dilemma at the heart of this exposé. Because when a network of influence operates beyond accountability, using fear, leverage, and secrecy to shield its interests, the very foundations of trust and fairness are at risk. The story of Project Ghost Room and the tangled web around Diddy is more than just a scandal. It's a wake-up call to examine the unseen forces shaping our world and to demand transparency where it is desperately needed. The truth is out there, but for now much remains hidden, waiting for the next revelation to shine a light on the shadows where power truly resides.